All right, so this is my name's Nolan Hesse. This is the Letter to the Left podcast. We're gonna go right into it because, to be honest, I kind of want to get into this one. This one's big to me. This is about being disgruntled on the right and why it came to be. So, first off, how did all this happen? Especially, and that's kind of comes from the fraction of the right that we talked about in the last podcast last week was a lot of people are seeing things that aren't happening quick enough and that aren't going on quick enough for their liking. And so it's causing a lot of detraction from what this administration is actually doing and then what the right actual goals are with kind of fogging up the success rate, if you will. And part of that's because of the price of groceries, the affordability myth, and generational issues that have come from really the last 2 decades. And what do I mean by, like, for example, the right a lot of time brings up, and the left, is the construct of like, oh, look what's going on right now. Everything's still expensive. Um, everything's still unaffordable. You know, you see the buzzword affordability, something that the left didn't really care about until all of a sudden, which the affordability like actual metric that was measured was far higher in the last 4 years than it was this last year. But either way, it's not that prices aren't necessarily cheaper. You're correct. There are areas where they are cheaper. Like for example, my grocery bill has been cheaper significantly. But it also depends on state. So a lot of states have local taxes and stuff like that on certain items in the store. And a lot of people want to blame tariffs, but it's like a lot of it's state taxes too. Like that's one of the big issues, especially when it comes to gas, right? You see California and all the Californians are like, "Oh, look, gas is still expensive." Oh, no. It's like, okay, yeah, but the average is still like $3 or under. And that matters because for the last 4 years, the average was sky high, right? So it's like, gas has gone down, inflation has gone down both on the yearly and the monthly as of now, significantly. And the big problem with that though is that especially inflation killed us the last several years. And what do I mean by that? Inflation is like gaining weight, okay? So think of you are in 2021 and you gain 8 pounds, right? And in 2022 you gain 15 more pounds, and in 2023 you gain another 3 pounds, and then in 2024 you gain 1 pound. And it's like, oh cool, yeah, in 2024 you only gained 1 pound comparative to the previous 3 years, but you're still overweight, right? Inflation's very similar. The only difference is you can't lose inflation, especially with fiat currency. All right. I think I kind of talked about that last podcast as well, as how like there is no, once inflation happens, you're not getting it back. There's no such thing as negative inflation, right? It's very hard to gain worth of something that has no actual worth. And that's what fiat money is. It's paper. It's backed by the US government. It's because they say this is in fact means something. Um, and so you get that, and people, and a lot of very impatient people, the generational difference that has to do with our generation, especially on the right wing and the left wing. I mean, it's both sides, right? Is that they don't understand that, because we are truly ignorant generation. We are so educated, yet we're so stupid. Our generation is, and that's just a reality. No one actually understands the complex structure of bureaucracy and economy and how that stuff plays out and why it matters so much to give it time. And that's why it matters so much that inflation's such a big deal, or that kind of stuff truly does, it weighs on the output of the economy, which then you end up having to pay for. A lot of people like point to the tariffs and stuff like that. It's like, yes, the tariffs, depending on what you truly believe in, like the tariffs are right? They have their plus and minuses. The only nice thing about tariffs is that if you end up getting rid of an income tax, tariffs, they're like, well, the consumer pays it. True. The consumer does pay it. The countries do as well. Like, it's kind of a 50-50 because there's certain safeguards in where they have to pay some of it. But it's like, well, the companies are just going to raise the price. It's like, true. That's absolutely true. That's why taxing does not work, and adding taxes a thing doesn't work, because eventually the corporate structure is just going to add onto that price. However, you still get to choose to pay that tax because you can choose from the items that are being tariffed, right? It's not something that it's forcing you to do. If you want this brand of clothing and it's made in a country that is heavily tariffed, but then there's a very similar piece of clothing that is not tariffed, you get the choice to pay for that. You get the choice to pay for that tax. So that's one of the that's kind of the myth about the tariffs that, oh, this is called the affordability crisis. Like, no, that's not really it. The affordability crisis, it came from inflation. It came from reckless spending, and it came from reckless printing, and that's pretty much it. I mean, that's where the affordability crisis really came from. And when it comes to like affordability, when it comes to groceries and stuff like that, like the I don't understand the left right now because they're using affordability as a buzzword, and then like all these self-proclaimed America First people are just like parroting it, and it causes some suspicion in my. I'm like, really, you're gonna use like one of the left's classic buzzwords as affordability? It's like, first of all, the left didn't care. Like I said earlier, the left didn't care about affordability the last 3 years. They were even going as far as writing, journalistic articles about, oh, the silver lining to inflation is higher wages, which everyone knows that's a crackpot lie. Like that doesn't necessarily equate. And then they were especially blaming. It was like constant. It was like blaming the. It was like blaming this the average American citizen or household for the rise of inflation. All this shit. It was like, what are you talking about? It's just not. That's not entirely true at all. The affordability crisis that we're in is caused from inflation and then poor spending. We as a generation are terrible at spending. I'm older Gen Z / younger millennial. I was 1995, so I guess younger millennial. We're terrible at it. The things we prioritize as a generation is actually ridiculous. And you still see it to this day. You talk about, it's like, well, this younger generation, they're the most likely to go out and travel the world. They're the most likely to not, get married or not buy a house or not all do this. Like, yes, some of it is because they can't afford a house, and part of that's because of the immigration crisis that's been discussed. They're all staying in homes that are paid for. You also have these huge companies like BlackRock and Blackstone that are buying up properties at a crazy exponential rate and outbidding families. But a lot of it is just the fact that we're not doing what we need to do financially. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to dudes in my own like career or when I was in college, and what they were paying for their cell phone was insane. Like, so, the things they're paying for, they're choosing to pay for, that's a luxury that they're like, no, I need to have this. Think of all the subscriptions you have that you say you can't live without. Think of what that costs monthly. Think of your phone bill. Think of your phone. I mean, phones cost $2,000 now. Think of your outfits that you buy. What brands are you buying? The name brand thing. You have to have the latest, consumerism at its finest, right? And we're probably the biggest perpetrators of consumerism as Gen Z and millennials, because we have to have the name thing. I mean, look at all the classic white women on college campuses that go for Lulu everything. Everything is Lulu. Dude, that skirt costs like $100. You can go on Amazon and get a similar skirt that's made of the same fabric, and it costs $25. It looks identical, right? Like, that's the kind of stuff you're talking about, and that's the problem, in my opinion. I think that's truly the problem for our affordability, crisis that we have. Yes, things are expensive. That's due to inflation, but we also just don't prioritize what we need to. We don't. We're terrible at it. We're absolutely terrible at it. I grew up where it was name brand everything, and it's from the influences of, influencers in general, right? Like, you see them traveling the world, you see them doing all these crazy things, and you're living vicariously through them on social media, and you think, well, I have to go do that. So you do everything in your power to try to imitate that, but you may not be able to afford that. I don't know how many college kids that I know that even their parents, may have paid for them to do something, but guess what they were doing? They were like, they may have paid a little bit, right? But they like, I'm going to go skiing for spring break. Or I'm going to go to Daytona or Miami for spring break. It's like, bro, you're bitching and moaning about not being able to afford what? everything, right? You're bitching, you can't afford your college tuition, can't afford this, but you have several $1,000s to spend and blast on a week and spring break. You have several weeks of some sort of summer vacation going with your friends that cost several $1,000s. It's everything. It's everything in our lives. I can't even stop going on about this because this is a huge pet peeve of mine. It's just a constant, like, I have to have the latest shoes. I have to have the name brand thing. I have to have the coolest car. I have to have the drinks. We go out and party ridiculously. You'll spend $200 on a tab on a weekend. $100, $200 is $400 to $800 a month, dude. That's your whole ass tuition payment. Well, and then you get the classic. Well, you shouldn't have to choose that. It's like, that's life. You're going to have to choose that. That is literally life. Okay, you don't just get to sit there and just have whatever you want. That's not reality. And that's, again, I'm going to go back to it. That's what I think the affordability crisis kind of comes down to for ours. Because if you look at it, our necessities, gas, inflation, stuff like that, it's all going down. It's all going down at an exponential rate. But for some reason, we're still bitching and moaning about things being expensive, and it's kind of exposing our priorities. I really think it is. And I think in the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see that. I think people are going to have to realize, like, oh shit, this is because I was just terrible at spending and I prioritized the terribly wrong things. I believe in that. And again, generational issues, that's part of it. Is I don't get me wrong, I kind of despise the boomers to an extent, and the silent generation, because they're so power hungry that they just have to have everything. However, they grew up in a time where you still had to just live with what you needed and had versus what you wanted, and you didn't sit there and waste money on shit you didn't want. A boomer is more likely to be the ones like, why do I need that when I can get this and it's cheaper, right? Why would I get this, crazy phone, this crazy smartphone that has all the bells and whistles when I can just get this simple one that's $400, $500, $600 cheaper? That's real, and that does matter, because then all that stuff that you're saving in the long run can be invested and then turn into times 100 down 10 years. Right? So it's like, oh crap, well, maybe I should have done that. It's like, maybe I shouldn't have bought the Gucci belt. Maybe I shouldn't have bought my Gucci purse. Maybe I shouldn't have bought, all these clothes that are Prada and all this stuff that is way too expensive. And it's like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. No shit. And I see it all the time, right? It's not just everyone. Like, for example, you see behind me, you see the bar behind me, right? I'm a huge whiskey drinker. There's some expensive bottles on there. All of those I've gotten at MSRP. I refuse to buy things that are at MSRP, or they've been gifts given to me. Like, the most expensive ones were gifts given to me. It's stuff like that. You have to have principle in what you're spending to make an affordable life. A perfect example, again, and I hate to toot my own horn, but like, I'm a single income household. All right. I don't make that much. But me, my $2 and my wife, my 2 dogs, my 2 cars, my mortgage that I have, that I pay pennies on the dollar for my mortgage that I got in 2021 because I knew this shit was going to hit the fan when Biden was in. I can afford it comfortably. Now, do I want to make more? Absolutely. But you get what I'm saying? Like there are ways to do it. Okay, but you just have to prioritize the right things, And that's just the reality of it. We're terrible at it. And, you can argue with a wall, to be honest, if you're mad or offended by that I'm calling my own generation out or the generation behind me. Because it's like, bro, you guys help do this, Your blind obsession with being like the influencers online has caused your lives to be paycheck to paycheck, And then you're wondering why the hell you can't afford shit. And then you're blaming the society and everything. And it's like, that's not entirely true. Some of it is. I'm not, some of it 100% is true. Not all of it. Okay. Again, we're terrible at it. You're spending $150, $200 a month on your phone bill alone. You're spending who knows God's how much on your latest shoes and shit like that. If I took half of your finances right now and you showed me it, like, do you think that I would be, just think, like, if I looked at it, if you said, okay, here you go, look at my finances, would you be like, Oh, he'd be impressed, or would he be appalled? Right? Probably a little bit appalled. So, that's kind of going down the affordability thing. That's on the left and the right. That's like ambiguous of what side of the political spectrum you actually like go on, because that's the reality of it, right? Is like that's more of like a generational issue that we have to learn to deal with, because we are so suckered into the new trendy thing that we just throw money at it, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna do this, whatever feels good. We're terrible with vices, y'all. We are terrible. We go so hard into what feels good in the moment that financially, emotionally, mentally, it's fuck us up, and that's a reality. All right, that's not like it's not a doomsday thing. It's literally what we're living in. All right, we are so heavily influenced by everyone else, and we're not even stopping to see what we got around us. We got to fix that. All right, because it's gonna bite us. It will. It's gonna catch us. So, going back on that, with that, it that's why I push back on some of the right wingers lately, like the Fuentes's, the Owens, the people like that, because they're talking about all this stuff. They're talking about all this doomsday, like affordability, and you can't afford anything, and all this stuff. It's like, okay, what do you mean by afford? What has happened the last several years? Did you think that this was just going to happen like that? Did you think that all this stuff was going to just start magically fixing itself? Absolutely fucking not. That's not how life works. All right? Time matters. And if you want to go back to having your $70 grocery a week, which was nothing, you could feed a family of 6 easily, you have to give it time. You have to. All right? Because it's not going to happen in a year. It's not going to happen in 2 years. Hell, it may not even happen in 3 years. You're not going to see that shit until the last year, which is the same thing that happened the first Trump presidency. Right? Now, again, I'm not a Trump apologist, but the first Trump presidency, we didn't really see any of those huge trademark economic booms until his, like 2019, I think it was, where we really started to see it. It was like, oh shit, things are getting cheaper. You have 185. Gas is getting down there. I'm in Kansas right now. Gas is getting down to like 240, and it's just slowly going down. 230, 220, 211. It's going to get there. It's going to keep going. But again, that's why you got to vote, because if you just keep on ignoring that, or like if you're a right winger who's getting all disgruntled because you have no justification as to why, but someone on YouTube or something told you that, you need to have a little bit of like reality check and be like, well, I still got to vote, because if the left gets in, a lot of that stuff's going to happen. A lot of these taxes are going to be added. A lot of these other things are going to be added to make it look unaffordable, and that's a fact. Okay, that's exactly what they're going to do, especially your local governments, which they already do, right? Gavin Newsom's a perfect example of this. He will go in front of his panel of journalists, essentially, and he'll filibuster. And when he talks about the price of gas, and when he talks about all this unaffordability in California, he'll sit there and blame Trump and Republicans, and he will just keep doing that. And no one pushes back on him. Like, dude, you are the one who is the governor of the state. Your legislature is a super majority in the state of California. All your city councils are liberal. Like, what do you mean it's Trump? That's 100% what happens. Like, go watch him. It's insane. It's actually like, it's straight up cognitive dissonance. It's like, what? It's like, how are you sitting here saying that this is Trump's fault, but you have Trump has zero influence in the state of California. Like, literally zero. Especially when it comes to gas. Like, your literal appointed, like, green energy style, like, committees that you have, that you did, Gavin, are adding gas taxes literally like every year. That's like 50, 60 cents a year, it seems like. And it always goes quiet. They never like admit it or say it until it's like way too late. And then it's like, oh, yeah, we actually passed this, and this is why it's $7 a gallon. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Like, perfect example of why you need to show out for your local elections, why you need to show out, because even though you may not like who you get, the alternative is far worse. Because if you get these religious fanatics on the left, and next podcast we'll be going into the like the state of the left, where they are right now, kind of their unpopularity, their immigration issues, uh, all that, which plays into it. They're a religious cult, y'all. Like, they're way worse than the MAGA nerds. They really are. They're absolutely way worse. They just, I mean, look at the Somali fraud, right? They're completely denying that any of that's taking place. And it's like, dude, this has been being investigated for years, and you got all the people involved. Like, you got everyone involved. Everyone got a piece. Everyone got a cut. Everyone got something. And you're sitting here trying to say, oh, none of this is happening. None of this is real. So a lot of that stuff we'll talk about next week. But, like, again, affordability crisis, disgruntledness, is it justified? Maybe a little bit. But, again, things take time. Affordability crisis, a lot of that's our fault. And I'm willing to admit it. All right. Again, I promise you, none of your older parents or grandparents were living like you today. At all. So, anyway, we'll get back into it. So, excuse me. So, anyway, this is the Letter to the Left podcast. I hope you guys tune in and enjoy it. Again, the more subscribers I get, the more I can actually maybe create some sort of revenue to actually start enhancing the podcast, and I can put more time into it. I do have a full-time job and a family. So, anyway, I hope you guys found this a little educational and a little bit just realistic. It's more just a talk, and that's all I want, is just to talk. So, anyway, have a good night. God bless you all, and we'll see you on Wednesday.